My wife sat across from me at our dinner table, candlelight flickering between us, and said the words that changed everything. "I want you to sleep with Megan." I almost choked on my steak. Diana's face remained perfectly calm, like she had just asked me to pick up groceries. 6 years of marriage, and I thought I knew this woman. I thought wrong. What she did not know was that I had been quietly building my escape for years, and her little game was about to backfire in ways she could never imagine. Before I tell you how I turned her trap into her own destruction, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. Hit that like button if you have ever felt underestimated by someone who was supposed to love you. And subscribe if you want to see how patience and planning can be the ultimate weapon against betrayal. Now let me take you back to where it all started. I met Diana 8 years ago at a small coffee shop in Austin, Texas. She was struggling to balance her laptop bag, her purse, and a latte that was way too full. The cup slipped, and caramel macchiato splashed across the floor, barely missing my shoes. She looked mortified. I grabbed some napkins and helped her clean up, and somehow we ended up talking for 3 hours straight. She laughed at my terrible jokes. She listened when I talked about my dreams of becoming a software engineer. She made me feel like the most interesting person in the room. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. Nothing fancy, just a picnic at Zilker Park at sunset. A ring that took me 4 months to save for, and her saying yes before I even finished the question. The first few years of our marriage felt like a dream I never wanted to wake up from. We saved every penny we could, skipping vacations and eating at home, until we finally bought a small house in the suburbs. I remember the night we moved in. We did not have furniture yet, so we lay on sleeping bags in the empty living room staring at the ceiling. Diana turned to me and said, "I do not care if we are never rich. I just want you." I believed her. I believed every word. I worked as a software engineer for a mid-sized tech company. The pay was decent, but not spectacular. Diana worked in marketing, earning about the same. We were comfortable, not wealthy, just two people building a life together. Or so I thought. About 4 years into our marriage, I started investing on the side. Nothing crazy at first. Just small amounts in cryptocurrency and some tech stocks. I used money from freelance projects I did on weekends. Money that Diana never knew about because she had stopped asking about my work by then. I kept it all in a separate account using an email address she did not know existed. My original plan was to surprise her one day. Maybe for our 10th anniversary I would reveal that we had enough to retire early, travel the world, live the life she always talked about wanting. Funny how plans change. By the time Diana made her bizarre request that night, my secret investment portfolio had grown to $1.2 million. Diana had no idea. She thought our total assets consisted of our house, which we still owed about $180,000 on, and a joint savings account with maybe $15,000. She thought I was trapped. She thought I had no options. The change in Diana did not happen overnight. It crept in slowly, like fog, rolling across a field. Around year 3 of our marriage, she got promoted to a senior position at her company. Suddenly she was traveling for work, attending fancy dinners with clients, rubbing shoulders with executives who drove cars that cost more than our house. At first I was proud of her. But then I started noticing things. She began making comments about my job. My coworker's husband just bought her a new Tesla. Or, "When are you going to push for that promotion? You have been at the same level forever." The way she looked at me changed too. There was this subtle disappointment in her eyes, like I was a book she had already read and found boring. Our conversations became shorter. She stopped asking about my day. When we sat together, her phone was always face down on the table and she would flinch slightly whenever it buzzed. About 6 months before that dinner, Diana introduced me to her new friend Megan. She described Megan as someone she met at the gym, a fun person to hang out with. Megan started coming over frequently, sometimes staying for dinner, sometimes just dropping by for coffee. She was attractive, I will admit, that with auburn hair and green eyes that always seemed to linger on me a beat too long. Diana noticed too. In fact, she seemed pleased by it. "Do you not think Megan is pretty?" Diana asked me one evening after Megan left. I shrugged, uncomfortable with the question. I guess I said, "She is not really my type." Diana smiled at that, but it was not a warm smile. It was calculating, like a chess player watching their opponent make a predictable move. She started engineering situations where Megan and I would be alone together. Diana would suddenly remember an errand she needed to run, leaving Megan and me awkwardly sitting in our living room. She would suggest I give Megan a ride home when it was raining. She would invite Megan over when she knew she had a work call, then disappear for an hour. Every time Megan would sit a little too close, touch my arm a little too often, laugh a little too hard at things I said. And Diana would ask me about it later, fishing for details, watching my face for reactions. Something was wrong. I felt it in my gut, a persistent unease that I kept pushing aside because I did not want to believe my wife could be playing some kind of game with me. I should have trusted my gut feeling, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. The dinner where Diana made her demand was a Friday night. She cooked steak and opened a bottle of expensive red wine, which immediately struck me as odd because Diana had not cooked in months. She said it was a special occasion that she wanted us to reconnect. I wanted to believe her. I really did. We ate mostly in silence, and then Diana set down her fork, looked me straight in the eyes, and started talking about something called an open marriage. She said it casually, like she was discussing the weather. Some couples do it, she explained. It keeps things exciting. It tests your commitment to each other. Before I could process what she was suggesting, she got specific. I want you to sleep with Megan. I stared at her, certain I had misheard. Excuse me. It is a test, Diana said, her voice eerily calm. If you can resist her, or if you give in, but choose to come back to me, I will know you truly love only me. Megan has already agreed to help. My mind was racing. This was insane. This was not how marriages worked. This was not the woman I had married. I looked into Diana's eyes, searching for the woman who once lay on a sleeping bag with me, and said, money did not matter. She was gone. In her place was a stranger with cold, calculating eyes. I need time to think about this, I managed to say. Diana nodded, her expression satisfied. Take all the time you need. That night, I did not sleep. I lay in bed next to my wife, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I was living in someone else's nightmare. Something was very wrong here, and I was going to find out what. The next morning, Diana announced she was going to the spa with Megan. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I grabbed her iPad from the living room. Diana had always been careless with her passwords, using the same one for everything. I typed in the combination I knew by heart, and I was in. Her message history was mostly deleted, but she had forgotten about the recently deleted folder. My hands trembled as I scrolled through conversations she thought were gone forever. There was a thread with someone listed only as D. The messages made my stomach turn. Date confirmations at hotels I had never heard of. Phrases like "I miss you," and "I cannot wait until this is over," and "we can be together for real." One message stood out like a knife to the chest. It was dated 3 days prior. The plan is working. He is clueless. Once he sleeps with Megan, we will have proof for the divorce. I will get the house and alimony. Then we will finally be free. I read it again and again. My vision blurred. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my temples. This was not just an affair. This was a conspiracy, a calculated scheme to destroy me. I forced myself to keep searching. I opened Diana's email on our shared laptop and found more. D was Derek, a senior manager at her company. Their affair had been going on for 2 years. 2 years of lies. 2 years of coming home to me, kissing me goodnight while planning my downfall. Derek was recently divorced and waiting for Diana to join him. Their plan was elegant in its cruelty. Megan was not Diana's friend from the gym. She was an old colleague of Derek's, recruited to seduce me. If I slept with Megan, Diana would burst in with a camera, capture the evidence, and use it against me in divorce court. Texas is an at-fault divorce state. The spouse proven to have cheated loses significant rights. No alimony, reduced claim to shared assets. Diana would walk away with our house a monthly check from me and Derek. I would walk away with nothing but shame. But here was the part that hurt most. I found an email Diana had sent to Derek a week before. It read, "He is so pathetic. He actually thinks I still love him. The fool has no idea I have been faking it for 2 years. He cannot even afford to leave me, so this is the only way." I read those words until they burned into my brain. Pathetic. Fool. Cannot afford to leave. She thought I was broke. She thought I was trapped. She thought I had no choice but to be her victim. For a long moment I sat in silence. Then something shifted inside me. The pain was still there, but it was joined by something else. A cold, clear resolve. If Diana wanted to play games, I would show her what losing really looked like. I called my old friend Marcus that night. We had been close since college, and he had become one of the best divorce attorneys in Texas. When I finished telling him everything, there was a long pause. "Do not confront her," Marcus said firmly. "Do not let her know you are aware of anything. We are going to do this the smart way. And when we are done, she will not know what hit her." For the next 3 months, I played the role of the clueless husband perfectly, and I enjoyed every second of watching her dig her own grave. Playing dumb was easier than I expected. Diana was so confident in her plan that she never suspected I knew anything. I told her I was considering her proposal about Megan, that I just needed more time to process such a big decision. She smiled and told me to take all the time I needed, probably reporting back to Derek that the trap was almost sprung. With Megan, I changed my approach. I became friendlier, more attentive. I let her think she was making progress. She would report to Diana that I was warming up, that just a few more weeks should do it. Diana grew excited, texting Derek about how perfectly everything was going. I read those texts on her iPad every time she left the house. Meanwhile, I built my case with surgical precision. I hired a private investigator, a discreet professional Marcus recommended. Within 2 weeks, I had photographs of Diana and Derek entering hotel rooms together, timestamps matching nights she told me she was working late. I had video footage of them holding hands at a restaurant across town. I had screenshots of every incriminating message, and email saved in 3 different secure locations. Texas law allows recording conversations if at least one party consents, so I started recording. When Diana called Megan to discuss their progress, I was nearby with my phone capturing every word. When she talked to Derek on speaker in her car, not knowing I had installed a small recording device under the seat, I got that too. Every conversation, every plan, every mocking comment about her pathetic husband was preserved in digital clarity. Marcus and I met weekly to review the evidence and prepare documents. My investment portfolio was documented as separate property funded entirely by income Diana never knew about and never contributed to. It was untouchable in a divorce. When Diana discovered I was not the broke loser, she imagined it would be too late for her to make any claims. We drafted the divorce petition together. At-fault divorce on grounds of adultery. Exhibits A through M, documenting her affair. A detailed timeline of her scheme to entrap me. Marcus said it was the most comprehensive divorce filing he had ever prepared. I chose my moment carefully. Diana and Derek had planned to execute their trap on our wedding anniversary. Megan would seduce me. Diana would catch us, and their scheme would be complete. I decided to strike first. The morning of our 6th anniversary, Diana woke up cheerful. She kissed my cheek and told me she had reservations at a fancy restaurant for dinner. I smiled and said I had a surprise for her too. That afternoon I came home from work early. Diana was getting ready, probably preparing for her big performance later. I asked her to come downstairs because I had an anniversary gift for her. She descended the stairs in a nice dress, her face expectant. I was sitting on the couch with a thick manila envelope on the coffee table. "Happy anniversary, Diana," I said. "I have a gift for you." She picked up the envelope with a smile that faded the moment she pulled out the contents. Divorce papers. Photographs of her and Derek at the hotel. Printed messages and emails. The private investigator's report with dates, times, and locations. The color drained from her face. Her hands shook so violently that some papers slipped to the floor. "Aiden, I can explain," she started. "Save it." My voice was calm, almost friendly. "I know about Derek. I know about Megan. I know about your little plan to trap me and take everything." Diana's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I stood up and walked toward her, pulling another document from my jacket pocket. It was a printout of my investment account summary showing a balance of $1.2 million. "You thought I was too broke to leave you," I said. "You thought I had no choice but to stay and be humiliated. But I could have left any time I wanted. I just wanted to make sure you got exactly what you deserved." The tears came then, though, whether they were genuine or just another performance. I could not tell. "Please," she begged. "We can work this out. I made a mistake." "A mistake is forgetting our anniversary," I replied. "What you did was a 2-year plan to destroy me. You called me pathetic. You said I was a fool. You laughed about how trapped I was." I picked up the papers from the floor and handed them back to her. "But guess what? I am walking away with everything. And you are walking away with nothing." 2 months later, we stood in a courthouse. The judge reviewed the evidence and granted an at-fault divorce in my favor. Diana received no alimony. The house was sold, and I received 60% of the proceeds based on our documented contributions. Diana was ordered to pay a portion of my legal fees, but the consequences did not stop there. The private investigator's report was shared with Diana's company, documenting an inappropriate relationship with a direct supervisor. An internal ethics investigation was launched. Derek was transferred to a different department. Diana was put on administrative leave pending review and eventually let go. Derek, it turned out, had been attracted to Diana partly because he believed she would come out of the divorce with significant assets. When he learned she was leaving the marriage with almost nothing and had lost her job, his interest evaporated. The last I heard, he had started dating someone new. As for Megan, I made sure her employer received an anonymous tip about her participation in the scheme. I do not know what happened to her after that. Honestly, I did not care enough to find out. I watched Diana walk out of the courthouse on the day our divorce was finalized. She looked smaller somehow, deflated, nothing like the confident woman who had smiled at me and said she did not care about money. Part of me expected to feel triumphant. Instead, I just felt hollow. I had won. But I had also lost 6 years of my life to someone who never truly loved me. The first month after the divorce was the hardest. I moved into a new apartment downtown, a nice place with a view of the city skyline. I could afford much better now, but I did not want extravagance. I wanted peace. But peace did not come easy. I spent too many nights lying awake, replaying moments from my marriage, searching for signs I had missed. Was her laugh always fake? Were her kisses always performances? Did she ever, even for a moment, actually love me? The questions circled endlessly. Vultures picking at the carcass of my dead marriage. I threw myself into work, logging 12-hour days just to avoid coming home to an empty apartment. My parents called every few days, and I always told them I was fine. I was not fine. I was surviving, but I was not living. One night, while unpacking boxes I had been ignoring for weeks, I found our wedding album. I flipped through the pages slowly, stopping at a photo of Diana and me at the altar. We looked so happy, so hopeful. I remembered how my heart pounded when I saw her walking down the aisle. I remembered thinking I was the luckiest man alive. I sat on the floor of my new apartment, surrounded by cardboard boxes and packing tape, and I cried for the first time since everything fell apart. I cried for the man who believed in those vows. I cried for the future we would never have. I cried for the stranger I had shared a bed with for 6 years without ever really knowing. The turning point came about 3 months later. My father called and said, "Son, your mom and I are worried. Come home for a weekend." I had been avoiding the trip, not wanting to explain my failure in person, but something in his voice made me say yes. I flew to Colorado, where my parents had retired to a small house with a view of the Rocky Mountains. My mom hugged me tight at the airport and did not mention the divorce once during the drive home. That night, my dad and I sat on the back porch, watching the sun sink behind the peaks. "You won the battle," he said after a long silence. "But do not let her win the war inside your head." I looked at him, not understanding. "The best revenge is not destroying someone," he continued. "It is becoming so happy that what they did does not matter anymore. Right now, she is still hurting you every day because you are still living in that pain. Let it go, son. Build something new." Those words stayed with me on the flight back to Austin. I started therapy the following week, meeting with a counselor who specialized in relationship trauma. I joined a support group for people who had been betrayed by their spouses. For the first time, I talked about what had happened, without anger, without bitterness, just honest reflection on what I had experienced and what I needed to heal. I started running every morning, something I had always wanted to do but never made time for. I took a cooking class on weekends, learning to make meals that Diana always claimed I was too incompetent to prepare. I read books on psychology and personal growth, trying to understand how I had ignored so many red flags for so long. 6 months after the divorce, I barely recognized my own life. I had been promoted at work not because I was chasing money, but because I was finally focused and present in ways I had never been before. I had started volunteering at a homeless shelter on Saturday mornings, serving breakfast and listening to stories from people who had faced challenges far greater than mine. I was not ready to date again. Maybe I would never be ready. But I was learning to be alone without being lonely. I was learning that my worth was not determined by whether someone loved me or betrayed me. I was learning to be enough for myself. One Sunday, my parents visited Austin. I cooked dinner for them in my apartment, a meal I had made from scratch using skills I had learned in those weekend classes. My mom tasted the pasta, set down her fork, and tears welled in her eyes. "I am so proud of the man you have become," she said. In that moment, I realized something important. Diana had tried to break me. She had called me pathetic, worthless, trapped. But sitting in my kitchen, watching my parents enjoy a meal I had prepared, I understood that her words only had power if I believed them. And I did not. Not anymore. I do not hate Diana today. I do not wish her well, either. I simply do not think about her. She occupies no space in my mind, pays no rent in my heart. That I have learned is what real freedom feels like. Betrayal does not define you. How you respond to it does. Diana thought money was power, that having more of it made her superior. She was wrong. The real power is the ability to walk away from someone who does not deserve you. The real power is choosing your own peace over their chaos. I do not know if I will ever fall in love again. The scars from this experience run deep, and trust does not rebuild overnight. But I know this: the next person who loves me will love all of me. And I will make sure I am worthy of that love by continuing to grow, to heal, to become the best version of myself. Some people come into your life to teach you what you do not want. Diana taught me that. She taught me that words without actions are meaningless. She taught me that the person who seems safest can be the most dangerous. And she taught me that I am stronger than I ever knew. If you are watching this and going through something similar, I want you to know something. You are stronger than you think. The pain will not last forever. And one day you will look back and realize that the worst thing that ever happened to you was actually the beginning of the best chapter of your life. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, I have a question. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who claimed to love you? How did you prove them wrong? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this video helped you or made you feel less alone, please hit that like button. It helps more people find this channel. Subscribe if you want more stories about resilience, growth, and turning pain into power. And share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Sometimes knowing that others have survived similar storms gives us the courage to weather our own. Take care of yourself. Protect your peace. And remember, that your worth is never determined by how someone else treats you. Until next time.